A game full of adventure. A game dripping with exploration and innovation and excitement. A game that teaches imagination, that teaches math, that teaches team building, problem solving, and reading skills. A game that is designed to build confidence. A game that brings kids together without a screen. Doesn't this sound exactly like the after-school activity that every parent is hunting for? I mean, we just are missing physical activity, and it even looks good on a college application. The game that I'm talking about is, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. Gotcha! Hey! D&D is still shaking off some of its bad rap from the satanic panic of the 80s, but I think that D&D is one of the best games for kids 11 and up. I mean, it teaches essential skills, but makes it fun and involves your child's imagination. It gives them ownership over the game and the world that they're building and the skills that they're practicing while they're playing. But running a game for kids is not the same as running a game for adults. Or is it? Hey everyone, I'm Miles Duffield, and I'm a professional dungeon master, and I've been playing D&D for 15 years plus, and I've had the honor to run well over 100 games for various groups of kids and teenagers, and in this video, I'm gonna lay out 5 pretty simple tips for how to adapt your game mastering style to better fit with children. Whether you're planning on running a game for your kids to bring them into the hobby a little early, or you're thinking of introducing Dungeons and Dragons as an after-school or extracurricular activity, or if you're even thinking about using it as an educational tool. These tips are designed to help you have more fun, the kids have more fun, and help guide you as you run the game. I should mention that I am not trained as an educator, but these are just some of the tips that I've picked up during my thousands of hours of childcare and running games for kids. So let's get started. All right, number 1, don't focus on the rules. Balance them with the play. I think this one's really important. It's kind of like a first step for me. That's why it's the first tip. Oh my God. It can be really hard to find this balance though, because D&D is just chaos without the rules. It's just pretend. And there's nothing wrong with pretend, but we're not really playing D&D if we don't play it with the structure of the rules. So for me, I try to use the rules as like a lens through which I look at the game, but I don't force the kids to use any official terms or even stick strictly to the rules. Kids won't have read the player's handbook, and you shouldn't expect them to. So don't restrict kids to the actions in the book. Let their imaginations guide their characters' actions and abilities. This goes back to my trick your players into having a good time video, which I'll link somewhere or down below in the doodly-doo. Yes and is the most important part of running a game for kids. Maybe not the most important part, but it's very important. You want to make their imagination mean something, and you want to bring it into the game as often as possible. This is difficult with very mechanical things like spells, right? But I'd encourage you to let them do the most interesting things possible with the spells that they have. Reward them for reading. Reward them for innovation. Reward them for critical thinking and for problem solving. Don't punish them unless they do something actually bad. We'll get into that in a second. Ask them questions. Ask them questions about their character. Ask them what they look like, what they sound like. Ask them how their spells manifest, how their abilities happen, how they attack. Ask them anything. This helps them take ownership over the character, their actions, over the world around them. Now, I say ownership a lot. I actually haven't defined it yet on the channel, and I think that right now it's really, really important that I tell you specifically what I mean. What I mean by ownership is that in the act of imagining it specifically, and by putting real work and energy into building the image of their character and the world around them, everything stops being so distant. They stop being lines on a character sheet. They gain a life in the child's mind, and the kid gets attached to them, and they begin to care about them. This route is a direct line towards engagement in the game. Shy kids may not want to answer, and that's okay. Ask the group at the table, and kids will throw out ideas, but be careful, though. You don't want the shy kid's agency to be taken away by letting the outgoing one at the table make all the decisions. Never force a kid into having their character be something that they don't want it to be. Never, maybe a little bit extreme, but I've had a kid play a sentient pile of towels before. I set it as a dwarf, and he had a blast. So I really don't think that you need to impress your ideas of what D&D should be on kids. It's just not as fun. Number 3, solve problems together. Engage in the game with them, play with them, make their problems yours. I've never found competition to be a useful tactic when running D&D for kids, and that includes competition between each other, but also this like active antagonism between DM and player that is common in the D&D community and that I've talked about at some length. I find it most helpful if I try to approach the game as the most collaborative experience possible. Everyone at the table has a part in deciding how things fall out. Don't be afraid to take your players' suggestions if they come up with something really cool, even about the world, about the plot, about a mystery, whatever it might be. Create an atmosphere where everyone can help everyone else, and where you can throw in suggestions and tips, and it won't feel weird, because sometimes kids really need a little help. But don't skimp on consequences, unless it's fun. If they play stupid games, they should win stupid prizes. If they get hit by a monster, it should deal damage. It might upset them, but it's an important part of the game. But I want to differentiate between stupid and silly. Silly is fun. Silly makes the story more interesting, it makes playing more fun, it keeps kids engaged, which can be really hard. Stupid is not fun. Stupid I define as hurting other players and characters unduly. It breaks games, it ruins fun for other players. Stupid is fine in Fortnite, where a kid can jump off a building or hide in a bush for a whole game or try to build the tallest tower. It only affects them, or they can go on to another game. That's fine when you're playing alone or in a game where the stakes aren't so high because they can get really high in D&D. It's less okay when you're sitting down at a table of your peers and the game you're playing requires the engagement of everyone for it to be fun and for the players to be successful. Make sure your players know when you think that they're drifting away into stupid and lay down the hammer. Do your best to explain why. This can be really difficult, and like everything else in D&D, it's most reliant on your ability to listen. Guide play with carrot and stick, but don't rely on gotchas to teach your new players how to play the game as a party. Be upfront, be communicative. Kids will respond. Listen to them, listen to them, listen to them. I've said that so many times, and I will keep on saying it as long as I am making videos about D&D. And this is so much more important with kids because you can't honestly expect children to express their needs. They're still learning what they are. They're still learning what feelings feel like in their tiny little growing brains. And most kids are still wrapping their mind around how fart is a funny word, but also a funny thing. So you're gonna have to do more work than you might have to do with an adult group, listening to the little clues that they may give you about what they want and what they need. I mean, I just railed about don't allow stupid in your games, but maybe your kids need some stupid. I mean, we all do, right? So create a mechanic, a time portal or something that allows you to keep game continuity while they exercise their desire for chaos. Let them blow off steam, but give them hooks for deeper engagement while you're doing so and see which ones they grab onto. Learn about the kids that you're playing with as they're learning about themselves. And this can be incredibly exciting because there's nothing like watching a fresh fascination blossom on a kid's face. There you are. There are your 5 tips. You're welcome. But the funny thing about these 5 tips is that they're good advice for running grown-up tables as well. Running games for kids is at its base, not all that different from running games from adults. Where the real difficulty in running games for kids lies is in how you troubleshoot some of the inherent problems that come up regularly when a group of kids sits down to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons. But we'll deal with that next time. Right now, I need you to smash that subscribe button and bing! Ring that notification bell so that you can know when the next video is coming so that you don't remain in suspense about how do I troubleshoot these terrible problems with these awful children. If you have any questions, you got any comments, you got any concerns, throw them down below in the comments. And please come hang out with me on Twitch. I stream 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on twitch.tv/geeksforgood at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. Come hang out. We play games, but we end up chatting about RPGs most of the time. And speaking of chatting about RPGs, join our Discord, which you can find a link for down below. It's full of a bunch of like-minded geeks who chat about all this stuff. Thank you for watching until the end. Keep on doing good. Don't skimp on consequences. Consequences. Consequences!